Hi there. I'm Oliver Jones. I'm a PhD candidate at York University in Toronto, and I'm a researcher for AOD. And today I'm going to talk about our article for the Springer Handbook, which I co-authored with my colleagues Ben Zweibelsen and Philippe Bulot-Brassard. So performance theory for design leadership is about pushing boundaries. It's about using non-standard, non-normative ways of sense-making to unlock possibilities for organizational change that are hard for defense organizations to identify and to talk about frankly. Those organizational blind spots are often areas of meaning and significance, which the organization needs to come to grip with to respond effectively to complexity. And design leadership is about drawing out and developing the knowledge of participants so that they're able to come to grips with the challenges of complexity in novel terms. And so we're using comedy, comedic effect, and the figure of the comedian as a kind of metaphor for thinking about how a design leader can encourage their team to sense make towards areas of thought that are forbidden or off limits to serious thought, serious contemplation. And one of the keys for unlocking these spaces is an awareness of the subtleties of setting and context. The central idea of the article is that pushing the boundaries of what can logically be said within sense-making processes about complex security challenges opens conceptual space for new ideas to emerge and take hold. This kind of boundary pushing provides a required condition for meaningful organizational transformation. So sense-making is about processing how people generate what they interpret. It's about reflexivity, which means it's about bringing into awareness the choices that people make about knowledge and identity that they might not even be aware that they're making. And we bring that into awareness so that those choices, the ideas that inform them, actions that follow from them, become tangible and open to critique and transformation. So sense-making, in essence, is about thinking about one's thinking as it is in action, and as it informs action, rather than simply following models, methods, and rules. And we're arguing in the article that design leaders who are reflexively aware of these kinds of philosophical and organizational nuances are more likely to foster novel design practices that push the envelope. And what design leaders need to be aware of themselves to make that work is the way in which setting and context informs sense-making. So what we're talking about is how staging or performance informs design practice, and how staging itself sets the terms for what participants are allowed to contemplate and talk about. So to highlight the importance of setting, performance, and the playful approach to sense-making that design leadership entails, we draw on the figure of the comedian. So the comedian has been a central figure in art and philosophy for millennia, I'd say. We could point to somebody like Diogenes the Cynic. We can think of the medieval court jester, like the one portrayed in Shakespeare's King Lear. And in those performances, we see that the comedian is a transgressive performer who plays with the rules governing acceptable speech and behavior by suspending them and even disrupting them. And the comedian plays with those rules in order to push the boundaries of what can be said about a given topic or concept so that more profound truths can come to the fore. Basically, a comedian takes a special qualified prerogative to break taboos in order to sense-make in a new way. This is especially the case for an experimental or an activist comedian. Somebody like Sacha Baron Cohen, famous for the Borat character, personifies this approach to a T. So by changing the rules and pushing the boundaries of what it's permissible to say, a comedian brings their audience into a new awareness of their own society and culture, and the rules and norms that inform their identity and behavior, their sense of right and wrong, and the gray spaces between them. Not only that, but a comedian can make their audience aware of paradoxes, ironies, and even absurdities that inhibit social transformation or prevent it from fulfilling its own values, serving its own institutional ideals. So the comedian is a special kind of truth teller who, by posing deliberate provocations that disrupt the normal sense of right and wrong, helps their audience, who are usually willing participants in the performance, grasp not only social complexity, but ethics, morality, and even justice in a renewed or a novel sense. And we're arguing that this kind of disruption, when carefully qualified and pitched at the right audience, is valuable and even desirable for a defense organization that wants to innovate, and by innovating, serving better. So we're making a case to set a stage and make space for nonconformity. There's a strong nonconformist streak in comedians, truth tellers, innovators, and designers alike. Design leaders should learn to get comfortable with pushing these kind of boundaries, because areas considered off limits to critical institutional reflection are precisely the spaces where designers have the greatest opportunity to sense make.